Hey guys, Heroic Flamingo here and welcome to my detailed class guide for the newly announced Vindicator. So in this video we're going to be looking at the Vindicator's exclusive weapon as well as the individual weapon skills. We'll then look at the brand new healing, utility and elite skills. We'll then see how the Vindicator changes the base mechanics for the Revenant, and then we'll look at the traits and specializations and finish the video with a combat demonstration. So if you're interested in playing as a Vindicator, or if you already are and you want to know more, then sit tight and we'll get started right now. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to give you a quick profession overview for the Vindicator. So the Vindicator is the third elite specialization for the Revenant in Guild Wars 2, and it's going to be unlocked in the End of Dragons expansion. So Vindicators channel the legendary alliance between two mortal foes to devastate their enemies and protect their allies. So basically you're going to get this brand new legendary alliance stance, which allows you to invoke the power of legendary champions Archimorus and Saint Victor. These are the champions of the Luxon and the Kurzik clans from the original Guild Wars factions. So it, they're basically Canthan legends, and it ties in a lot with the End of Dragons story and everything like that. So obviously I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but one thing you will be getting is you will be getting a new and exclusive weapon, which is the Greatsword, which is something that Revenant players have been asking for a long time. So we'll be going through that shortly, as well as all of the other skills. There's quite a lot of different mechanics as well that I'll be going through a little bit later in the video before showing off all of the combat at the end. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first up we're going to have a look at the new and exclusive weapon for the Vindicator. And lucky for you, it is the Greatsword, which is something that Revenants have been asking for a long time. So I'm going to have a look at each of the individual new skills, read out what they do and then demonstrate them. So we've obviously got 5 brand new skills here. And obviously it doesn't matter what stance you're in, your weapon skills remain the same with the Revenant. So I'm going to show you all 5 of these weapon skills now. So our number 1 skill on the Greatsword is a chain ability. So it's Mist Swing, followed by Mist Slash, and then Arcing Mists. So the first one is swing at enemies with your Greatsword. So it's from melee range and hits up to 5 targets. Second one, swing your Greatsword again, inflicting vulnerability. So similarly, you can hit up to 5 targets from melee range, but this time you can inflict vulnerability on the enemies. Third one is you cleave your foes, inflicting vulnerability and chilling them. So still from melee range, but more vulnerability and extra chill as well. So you can be sticking conditions on the enemies. So let's have a look. Let's try this out on this guy here. So first one, so smash, and then vulnerability on that one. And then you see on the third one, you get extra vulnerability and shield. You see that's actually quite a high damage ability there for a number 1 ability. And obviously, like most chains, just try not to interrupt that when you're using it, because most of it is obviously weighted towards the third and final hit. So that's a pretty cool chain ability there, pretty standard on a weapon like this. Our second one is Mist Unleashed, and this costs 5 energy, and it's got a 7-second cooldown. So hurl forces from the mists in front of you, rendering foes vulnerable. Okay, so let's have a look at what is that. So it can be done from 240 range, which is a bit further away than melee range, but you want to be pretty close. Hit up to 5 target and inflict vulnerability. So we're going to hurl the forces of the mists. Let's try it on this guy then. So we want to be relatively close. You're going to go smash. There you go. So it's a big hit there. Big stacks of vulnerability on everyone. You can see it sort of cleaves in front of you, this sort of area here. Let's try that one more time. Bam. There you go. And you can see that's quite a lot of vulnerability. It stacks on the enemy there as well. So that's going to be a pretty effective skill. Relatively low energy cost there as well, which is good. And our third one is Phantom's Onslaught. So this costs 8 energy and has a 15-second cooldown. So it rushes towards your opponent, cleaving the area. So it can be done from 900 range, so pretty far away. So this could be used as sort of like a way to move around the battlefield, so a bit of mobility, or it could be used as an opener. So if you're running towards an enemy, so it's going to rush at them and it's going to cleave them, going to hit up to 5 targets in a radius of 240. and it's going to put shield on the enemy as well. So obviously make sure you target the enemy you want to go to, and then press your number 3, and then bam. Really cool there. So you go flying across, and then you cleave, and you put that decent amount of damage as well as shield. Bear in mind that's going to hit up to 5 targets. So if you've got a big group of enemies there, do that right. Pick the guy in the middle, run in the middle, and you'll just do a nice big cleave and do a nice bit of AOE damage as well, which is cool. So 4th skill here, Imperial Guard, costs 12 energy and has a 20-second cooldown. So block incoming attacks for a prolonged duration, and ready a counter attack that deals increased damage based on the attacks blocked. Okay, so you're going to block for 2 seconds, and obviously the more you block, the more effective your second skill will be. So I'll show you what it's going to be. So obviously we're not actually going to take any hits from these golems, so I would go up to this guy. I would use my number 4 to block, as you can see, and then I now have True Strike, which is strike your foes with empowered energy, deals increased damage based on attacks blocked by Imperial Guard. So I can't probably show that because I can't block, but as you can see, you got a damage per block. It's a melee attack, hits up to 5 enemies. So the more you block, so I mean it's good because it's a defensive ability, but then you can use it offensively as well to do a bunch of extra damage, so that's pretty cool. And then our 5th and final weapon ability here is Eternity's Requiem. This costs 15 energy and has a 20-second cooldown. So whirl your greatsword, opening holes in the mists that deal damage. Okay, so this is another one. So it seems to be quite a lot of mobility on this weapon, which could be good. So once again, it's 900 range, has a radius of 360. You can see, so you're gonna deal a certain amount of damage over time for 9 seconds, hitting up to 3 targets, as you can see. Let's have a little look at this one, because it's I'm not entirely sure exactly how this is going to play out. So, okay, so let's target the enemy. Let's use this. So smash. Oh, there you go. And you can see there's loads of impacts there in enemies all around. It looks very much like a skill that the Reaper has, actually. It's exactly the same animation, where you sort of whirl around with the greatsword. And you can see damage is reduced per target each time they're struck by this skill, so it does go down, so you're not going to do loads and loads, but you can hit up to 3 targets with it, so it should be a pretty good skill there. Let me just try one more time on this guy. So bam, there you go. As you can see, a bunch of different impacts there, and I'll be hitting everyone around you. So once again, another pretty good AoE skill to use on all of the enemies around you. So that's all of our new skills for the greatsword, so that's really awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the new and exclusive healing skill for the Vindicator. Alright, so now we're going to have a look at the new healing skill for the Vindicator. So I just need to briefly explain to you how this is going to work, because it's got quite a unique way these skills, the healing, utility and elite skills, a unique way that they work. So obviously I did explain briefly that there is you are actually 2 different champions all in one in this stance, and because of that, each of these skills has 2 parts to it. So once you've used one of them, it will flip over to the other one. So you'll use, say, your Archimedes skill, and then it will flip over to your Saint Victor skill, which is really awesome. So it means you get 2 of each. But it also means you have to think about that when you're in combat and stuff like that. But so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to demonstrate both of the abilities for you. So as you can see here, if you hover over it, it does actually show you both of them. The one that's highlighted around the edge is the one that's currently on your bar. So we've got Selfish Spirit and Selfless Spirit. You see that? So we'll play on words there. So Selfish Spirit, which is the orange one here. I'm just going to call them the orange one and the blue one, just to make it easier for you. So the orange healing skill, Selfish Spirit, it costs 10 energy and has a 10-second cooldown. So channel your rage into the nearby area, healing and empowering yourself for each enemy struck. So this one's going to be one of those healing skills which is based on you hitting enemies. So you're going to do a bit of damage, and for each time you hit an enemy, you're going to get a heal. You're also going to put might on yourself and vulnerability on the target. So it can affect up to 5 targets with a 240 radius around you. So let's demonstrate this now. Okay, so Selfish Spirit. You can see it's hitting enemies in the area, it's putting might on me, and it will heal me based on those hits to enemies. So it's quite good if you're surrounded by quite a lot of enemies. And now you see this mechanic. If you see, I've now got Selfless Spirit. So it looks similar, but it's blue. So the blue skill for our healing, Selfless Spirit, also costs 10 energy and has a 10-second cooldown. So this one is heal allies in an area. So it's got a healing amount. It casts 5 times. Number of ally targets is 5, and a radius of 240 around you. So let's watch this. So you sort of cast it, and you can see it's going to heal allies around you over time. So you've probably noticed by now you've got like the orange skills, generally the more offensive one, whereas the blue one's the more defensive one, which is pretty cool. And I'll show off that dodge in a bit. So that's the new healing skills. So the next thing I'm going to do is have a look at the new utility skills. Alright, so now we're going to have a look at the new utility skills, and although there's obviously 3 to choose from, there's actually 6 different skills to show, because following on from the last bit, they're each going to have the orange and the blue version of the skill. So let's start by showing off our first utility skill here. So our orange skill is going to be Nomad's Advance, and that is lunge forward, damaging foes and gaining might for each target struck. So this can be done from 600 range, so mid-range. You're going to leap at the enemy, and you're going to damage up to 5 targets in a radius of 180 around you. You're going to gain stacks of might for each enemy you hit, so the more enemies in the area, the better buff you're going to get, and the more damage you're going to be able to dish out. So let's demonstrate this here. So if I target this guy, step back a bit, bam, there you go. So jump and hit. It does a really nice amount of damage there actually, and like I said, it puts might on yourself as well. So you're going to want to use that on like a big group of enemies, because it's going to maximize your buffs as well as the amount of damage you do, so that'll be good. But that's a good skill for moving around as well. And then let's look at the blue version for this skill. So we've got Battle Dance. So this costs 15 energy and has a 10-second cooldown. So evade backwards, granting boons to allies. So this is sort of the opposite of the other skill. So this time we're actually going to go backwards, evading for half a second, and giving boons to up to 5 allies within 240 radius. Regen for their health and resistance as well. So let's demonstrate this. So if I'm fighting this guy, if I press that number 7, I'm going to, there you go, jump back, and I'm going to have boons, and so are my allies as well. So there's a good support ability there, as well as a good way of being able to get out of combat and avoid some hits. So our number 8 skill here is Scavenger Burst. This is the orange one. So 15 energy cost and a 10-second cooldown. So unleash your rage at foes in the area, gaining quickness and endurance for each foe struck. So this is going to hit up to 5 targets. It's going to, as you can see, it's going to grant you quickness, it's going to put burning on the enemy, and it's going to do a decent amount of damage. So this is a pretty good one here. It's a radius of 240 as well. So you know, it's something that is pretty good. It's got 900 range as well. So I'm not sure if you can, yeah, let's just see how that works then. So it's got, I'll try this out. Oh yeah, so that's just because it's, sorry I didn't say, it's a ground target ability. So we can ground target from 900 range, and it's a 240 radius on the ground. So let's try it on this guy. Bam. There you go. So you can see there that you've put burning on the foe there, which is pretty cool. And got some might as well. So our alternative here for our number 8 is Tree Song, which costs 20 energy and has a 10-second cooldown. So grant regeneration and cleanse conditions from allies in the targeted area, healing them for each condition removed. Gain endurance for each affected ally and gain additional endurance for each condition removed. So this is another good support ability here on your blue side. So once again, it's going to be a ground target ability, but it's going to do condition cleanse and regen to allies in the area basically. And for each one you do, you're actually going to get endurance back. So you're going to want to use this skill in tandem with that when you want to get some endurance back. And you can see, bam, there you go, you're going to get your regen, condition cleanse, and then your boost and endurance as well. And that's only got a 10-second cooldown. So our third and final utility skill, so our orange one is Reaver's Rage. So this costs 35 energy, so it's quite expensive, and has a 10-second cooldown. So break, stun, and attack nearby enemies, gaining stability and fury for each target struck. So yeah, predominantly, so it's a stun breaker, so that's good, and you're going to hit up to 5 enemies, and you're going to put fury and stability on yourself, so some good buffs, and then for each enemy you hit, you're going to have more seconds of fury as well, which will give you an increased critical chance for even longer. So let's see how this works out. A little bit of damage as well by the looks of it. So if I use this, bam, there you go. So it affects all the enemies around you. As you can see, we've got fury, we've got stability. The more enemies around you, the longer those buffs are going to last, so do try and time that well when you're surrounded by enemies. Be an effective skill. And then our blue one on our number 9 is Awakening, which costs 35 energy as well and has a 10-second cooldown. So break, stun on nearby allies and grant protection. So once again, similar sort of thing, but instead of offensive buffs, you know, like fury, it's going to be defensive buffs like protection. So it's very similar. So you can see, boom, there you go, and we've got our protection on us there, as well as we had some stability as well. So that can be used as a decent buff. So that's all of the utility skills. So you can see the mechanics playing out there. You've got your offensive and your defensive abilities, so you can swap between them. So it's actually a really cool mechanic and something that we've not really seen on this game before. So I am actually quite excited to try it out a bit more and see how that actually works in practice, because I can imagine being a little bit being a little bit frustrating if, you know, it's not the one you want. Like, you want to use the orange skill but the blue one's there or something like that, and you've got to use that first before you can go back to it. There is a professional mechanic about swapping, which I will go into in a little bit, but it's just an interesting concept, and it's nice to see they're still thinking of original things to do. So now that's all of the utility skills. So now we're going to have a look at the new elite skill for the Vindicator. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the elite skill, or I suppose the elite skills for the Vindicator, because we're going to have the orange and the blue skill. So starting with the orange as usual, our elite skill here is Spear of Archimedes. So this costs 20 energy and has a 12-second cooldown. So you can use this pretty frequently, which is nice. And it's call upon the spirit of Archimedes to hurl his spear at your foe, dealing significant damage. So the range on this is 2000, which I don't think I've ever seen more than, I think, 12 to 1500. So 2000 is the highest range ability I've ever seen. I'm not sure if that's particularly useful if you're actually going to be that far away from an enemy realistically in a fight, but at least you know that it's definitely going to hit. It's going to have a decent amount of damage apparently, significant damage it says, and it's going to put Torment on the enemy as well, which is going to do some damage over time. So that's a pretty cool skill, so let's try that one out on one of these guys. So that, I mean, it's got quite a range, so let's try it all the way from back here. So let's get that go. Oh, nice. Alright, sweet. So you can see he summoned Archimedes here, and it takes a couple of seconds for him to do it, and then he's going to throw that that spear, which is going to do a decent amount of damage as well. So it's one that we're going to be probably using quite a lot, but obviously bear in mind it's going to be swapping us over to this second one we've got here. So we've got Urn of Saint Victor. So this is our blue skill. So this is one that's going to give us minus 10 energy pips here. So we've obviously got plus 5, which means that we're keeping our energy up at all times. So if we're going to get minus 10, as you can see there, so rather than costing a bulk of energy, it's going to do minus 10. So it's going to get rid of your 5 plus and do 5 minus, which means as soon as I use this, it's going to drain my energy very quickly until I turn it off again, or until my energy runs out. So become the Urn of Saint Victor, taking continuous damage while healing nearby allies. You take reduced damage while in this state, but you cannot be healed. So 50% movement speed, 50% incoming damage, minus 50% incoming condition damage, and then 1% damage there. So number of targets 5. So effectively you're going to be taking continuous damage over time, but you're going to be healing the enemies around you. Overall, you will be taking 50% less damage while you're in this state, so that'd be really good. but it's just something to bear in mind. It's a bit of a trade-off. So let's have a look to see how this actually works. So bam, you can see it's going to start draining quite quickly. Got this cool animation here, and I can drop the urn of Saint Victor, which is slam your urn into the ground, ending the ability, and grant boons and heal allies. So let's try that out now. So bam, you can see we've got that boons there. You could see my health was actually draining pretty quickly. I thought it was going to be like a little bit, but yeah, no, it did drain your health pretty quick. So that is something to bear in mind. So let's just quickly, I want to have a little look at that one more time real quick. So let's just use our one here, Archimedes. Well, nice one. And then if we've got the urn again as well, so we can see, you can see, look, my health's going to start going down pretty quick there. But we can drop this urn to do a nice heal and buffs to you and your allies. So that's something to bear in mind there. But yeah, you can't keep that up for too long, as you saw, because it's going to drain your energy really quickly. But if you already play Revenant, you should already be familiar with those types of skills, as there's always a couple on the other stances as well. So that is the elite skill for the Revenant, well, for the Vindicator. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the profession mechanics. Alright, so now we're going to have a look at the profession mechanics for the Vindicator. So we've been through quite a few things already. So we've obviously seen the cool new mechanic on all of these healing, utility and elite skills here. Like we said, use one of them, switches over to the other one. So from Archimedes to St. Victor. So we can see that's going to switch them around there, which is really cool. So that's one thing that we've got, which is a new mechanic for this particular class. And then obviously we've gone into our new stance, which we've got the new greatsword, which is really awesome, and our F2 ability here, Alliance Tactics. So this is a new one as well. So I'm going to have a little look at this. So this costs 25 energy and has a 20-second cooldown. So gain endurance and swap your legendary alliance stance skills. So what this will do, as you can see by the little graphic here, it will swap all of the ones that are on blue over to the orange skill, and all of the ones that are on orange over to the blue skill. So it's going to swap them around. So let's just demonstrate that now. So if I use that, you can see they've gone to the other one. So it's just something to bear in mind, because I did say earlier that it might be a little bit frustrating if you want to use the blue one but you've got the orange, or vice versa. So that is a way of doing it, albeit at a cost of 25 energy. So is something to bear in mind. But this does give you endurance as well, and I'm going to show you now why endurance has come up quite a few times on this, which is obviously for your normal dodge rolling. But dodge rolling is a thing of the past with the Vindicator. So this is something that's really cool. It's definitely going to take some getting used to, because sometimes I just dodge around just to sort of move around just because I'm used to it, and that's not the case with this class. So you can see, rather than being split into two like normal, the endurance bar is just one, and that's because you only have one dodge effectively. But it's not a dodge like you've seen before. So let's try this out now. So if I am to dodge in this direction, bam. So what you do is you launch yourself into the air, and while you're there you can move around and you can see the target on the floor as you're moving around. And let me just see if I use my F2 now. So I've got my endurance back. So if I use that, and then I can move around, and then you can see drop on top of the enemy's heads. So that's going to do a decent amount of damage there, and it's a good way of getting into combat, landing on top of the enemy's heads, and obviously evading attacks for a second or two there as well while you're in the air. So that's a pretty cool new ability as well. So there's not too much else that's changed really. Your energy bar is the same as normal, so that's not anything that's changed. It's just the Revenant. We said about the new stance, new weapon, new skill here. There's no other skills to look at there. And then the main things, obviously you have 2 of all of your utility skills, which is quite a significant thing. So it's all part of the theme of this particular elite spec, which is obviously the 2 alliances, the Kurziks and the Luxons, which is a big part of Guild Wars factions. That's why they've wanted to put it into this, because it links in with Cantha, and you know it's good for the expansion and stuff like that. So I think that's all really cool. There's a fair few changes there to get used to, not least of all this. Yeah, that's definitely going to take some getting used to. But that's everything for the profession mechanics for the Vindicator. So now we're going to have a look at the traits and specializations. Alright, so now I'm going to have a look at the Vindicator specialization and the individual traits within it. So obviously, as it's an elite specialization, it has to go into your third slot here, and just by equipping it into your slot, you're going to get great sword proficiency, which means you can wield great swords, and obviously we've been through that already. Your first passive, which gives you these cool new profession features which you've been through, it's called Tenacious Ruin. So instead of dodging, deliver a powerful blow from above, striking foes when you hit the ground. Dodging costs all of your endurance and can only be executed at full endurance. So yeah, basically you've only got one endurance bar, like we said. Using it costs your whole thing, but instead of rolling, you're going to deliver a powerful blow from above. So it's a completely different mechanic, so something to get used to. Does a decent amount of damage, can hit up to 5 targets in a radius of 240 when you land. So our first choices here, Leviathan Strength. F2 now refreshes the cooldowns of Alliance utility skills. The cooldown of F2 is increased. So recharge time increased by 20 seconds on your F2, so it'll be a 40 second on there. But cooldown of Alliance utility skills. So that's going to be your utility skills over here. So your 7, 8 and 9. You're going to be reducing the cooldowns of them while adding to this. So if you find that you use your abilities a lot and you switch between them just by using the skill, then you probably want to go with this. But if you feel like you use your F2 a lot to swap between them because there's a particular ones that you particularly want to use your orange or your blue skills, then you probably don't want to go with this one because it's going to make that take twice as long to recharge. The second one here is Amnesty of Xingzhe. So legendary alliance abilities gain an additional bonus. Activating F2 grants both of these bonuses simultaneously. Luxon abilities grant regeneration in an area around you. Kurzik abilities grant might in an area around you. So as you can see, depending on whether you're using Luxon or Kurzik abilities, you're going to get either regeneration or might, as you can see. So that'll be pretty good, just adding additional buffs onto your abilities. And next one here, we've got Redemptor's Sermon. So when struck while below the threshold, the health threshold, heal allies in the area and cleanse their conditions. So if you're struck below 50% health, you're going to remove 3 conditions from up to 5 targets in a 240 radius and heal them as well. But do bear in mind, it's not God mode. It does have a 90-second cooldown there on the activation of this, so it's just something to bear in mind. But this is another one for, I suppose, if you're focusing more on like a support build, which seems like something you could potentially do with this particular elite spec. The next passive is Balance in Discord. So gain health and boons when swapping legends, or by using alliance tactics while attuned to the legendary alliance. So as you can see, you get regen and health whenever you're going to swap between your legend or using alliance tactics, which is this one here. So you know you can be doing that quite a lot, so that just means that you're going to be healing yourself, helping you keep alive, so that's just going to make you a bit more tanky there. Your next choice here is Reaver's Curse. So gain endurance for each target affected by your dodge. So gain 4 endurance, as you can see, for each target affected. So it just means your endurance is going to come back quicker. So the more people you land on with your dodge, if you want to call it a dodge, you're just going to get more of that endurance back, so you can use it more often. So if you find yourself using that a lot as a weapon and a way of getting around, you might want to go with that particular trait. Next we've got, what's this, Angiuson's Trust. So grant endurance in an area when swapping legends or activating alliance tactics. So once again, it's about giving yourself endurance. So whenever you swap legend or use alliance tactics, you're going to get an extra 10 endurance gain, and that can affect up to 5 targets in a radius of 240 around you. You can see next is Song of Arboreum. They're really testing me with these words in this one. The Song of Arboreum. So grant vigor to yourself and nearby allies after dodging. Vigor has an increased effect on you. So vigor means you're going to get extra endurance regeneration. So you can see all these ones here are focused on getting that endurance back. So after you've used your dodge, you and nearby allies are going to get Vigor, and Vigor effectiveness on you is increased by 50%. So our final passive here is Empire Divided. So gain increased power while above the health threshold. Gain increased healing power when below it. So if you're above a 50% health threshold, you're going to get an extra 240 power. But if you're below it, you're going to get an extra 240 healing power, which is obviously going to help you keep yourself alive. So that's quite a decent passive there as well. And then our last choices here, we've got Forerunner of Death. So your total endurance and the cost of dodging are both increased. Dodging now deals more damage but affects a smaller area. Gain increased damage for a period of time upon impact. So this changes your dodge again quite a lot. So you can see you got Death Drop, so drop from above, delivering a massive strike on the focused area. So decent amount of damage, vulnerability on the target, but a radius of 180 rather than the normal 240, I believe. So it's it depends what you want to do. If you're going to be hitting sort of single targets or smaller groups of enemies, then potentially you want to do this because it's going to be doing more damage, but it's going to take more endurance to charge up, so to bear that in mind. So it's sort of like a you can use it less often, but it's going to be more powerful. So it'll be if you don't want to be spamming it all the time, but you want it to be more effective, like you use it once at the start of fights to enter combat or something like that, you might want to go with this one so it's more effective when you do use it. Next up, we've got Vassals of the Empire. So dodging now grants boons to allies and inflicts chill on struck foes when landing. Extend boon duration for allies upon landing. So when you dodge, so you're going to get boons to allies and chill on enemies. So some extra effects there when you're using it. And your boons are going to be increased by 2 seconds. So this is just going to add to the damage you're going to do while using it, as well as a bit of support for your allies as well. And finally, we have Saint of Zuhelza. So your endurance bar and the cost of dodging are reduced, but the affected area is increased. You now heal allies in an area when you land instead of dealing damage. Outgoing healing is increased for a period of time upon landing. So this is the support version of your dodge. So you can actually use it more often, but instead of it being a damage ability, it's a healing ability. So you want to use this on your allies rather than your foes. So that's pretty good there. And then for 6 seconds afterwards, you're going to get 20% healing increase to others as well. So if you're using this as like a support build, that's definitely something you're going to want to go with. So you're going to be healing allies just with your dodge, which is pretty cool. Okay, so that is the specialization for the Vindicator here and all of the individual traits. So the last thing we're going to do in this video is I'm going to give you a combat demonstration where I'm going to show off all of these new skills in action, just so you can see what it looks like. So thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe to be kept up to date, and I will see you later.
It's my turn! Buster!